I'm Amy Rogers with ISTE Vision News. Welcome to the 33rd Annual ISTE Conference and Exhibition here in beautiful San Diego, California. First, we begin with highlights from Sunday night's opening keynote.
Your voice matters. Not only does your voice matter, it can be heard around the world. ISTE continues to expand its global reach, and this year is no different.
I mean, 10 years ago, people didn't tweet, did they? I mean, if they did, they were discouraged. Weren't they? People would say, what was that? Do you mind not doing that? And if you have to do it outdoors. We're trying to eat in here, you know. But now, suddenly, it's a kind of social commitment. You have to tweet, otherwise you're kind of out the fray.
Schools are being left behind, particularly in mobile learning. So, 6 years ago, Qualcomm developed an initiative called Wireless Reach. Wireless Reach supports a number of research-based pilot studies that focus on mobile learning and help to drive a 21st century skills environment in and out of the classroom.
When we see things like encouraging students' passion to achieve, we have to think, well, do we mean that achievement is everything and passion is kind of down there? Or do we mean, in my view, that passion is what we have to do first, and that's what's going to lead us to achievement?
It can literally take one teacher to make a difference, and I am blessed to have had one person in my life who took the time and had the patience and really showed me the beauty of a life as a scientist.
They say it's all about who you know, so it was a real treat for attendees who stopped by the Treat Up to do some networking and check out the poster sessions underway.
It's all about networking. Networking is a great resource in order to be able to enhance your students to go to the next level.
It's an opportunity for us to really make connections with other teachers and other people that are trying to change the face of education.
I've been here for 2 days already, and I've learned so much that I could turn around and go home tomorrow. Just to go back and put into practice some of the things that I've learned here is going to be amazing.
Michael Fullen spoke with the attendees and attended the NETSA meeting. Take a look.
If you were creating a learning experience for students, that's going to be most exciting. What criteria would you think that learning experience would have to meet? In the book, I identified 4. I think they're comprehensive. That is, they cover anything I can think about what a learning experience should look like.
This is the single place where you can meet a lot of people at once. This is dynamic, thousands of people. They're a mixture of teachers and technophiles, and they're kind of getting closer together.
Tweeters and Facebookers came to life during the ISTE member networking fair.
I'm quite excited to meet people I've met on Twitter and connect with and develop my PLN further, as well as ways of integrating technology.
Teaching can be a really lonely profession, closed off in your classroom, and so it's great to finally meet all the people you've connected with online.
This is like a pilgrimage every year to get together and hang out, share stories, exchange ideas, and just give a few hugs. It's good to get together and share those things person to person.
If you want to feel like a rock star, stop by the ongoing Rockstar Sessions. We visited one showing teachers how to become a flip teaching Jedi. And now the moment we've all been anticipating, the opening of the exhibit hall. And we wanted to know, what do you love about ISTE's exhibit hall?
I like to go to where I can find things that I can use in my classrooms.
You get to see all kinds of new ideas and things that maybe you didn't even know existed.
Some great companies out here who are kind of dedicated to education. We work with a lot of them, so it's nice to meet folks in person.
This is probably the biggest one-stop shopping place that I can find anywhere within the country. And so I always look forward to coming to ISTE, especially coming to the big exhibition.
It's tough to even know where to begin or what to do with so much going on at ISTE 2012. That's where the Shred Sessions can help. In just 1-hour sessions, see 20 different presenters. The sessions are held at 7 a.m. each morning. Tuesday morning, Dr. Yang Zhao spoke about future-oriented education. Take a look.
I feel GPS is a very interesting metaphor for us to think about education. It's a great technology, but you got to know where you're going with it. Right? That's important. If you don't know where you're going with it, it's like education reform. We're trying to make our schools so effective and our teachers so effective, but effective in doing what? That's where a question we need to all have to ask. What really matters?
There are hundreds of sessions here at ISTE 2012. Today, we stopped by the Corporate Spotlight session to hear the latest from Microsoft.
You have to make technology not only work for students, but embrace the challenge of learning to make it special, to enable teachers to create playful, purposeful, and personal experiences for students all over the world.
Tuesday afternoon, ISTE President Holly Jove attended the President's Panel, where she met with leaders to discuss the future of education technology.
I think if we're going to have these personalized learning environments, we need to really shift our thinking from teaching mentality and that it's all about teaching till it's all really about learning. And that we really are trying to foster self-directed learning in students and teachers and create environments for them to actually guide their own learning. And we can't do that without professional development and helping our whole education community rethink what it is to be a learner and to provide that support for them.
What better way to raise money than dancing and getting a good workout? The Zumbathon Dance Party fundraiser was held Tuesday afternoon. Thanks for watching ISTE Vision News. I'm Amy Rogers. We'll see you next year.
There is no arguing that technology has radically changed the way we live in, learn from, and interact with the world around us. As educators, we often talk about the importance of digital age learning and teaching, but what about leadership? What do education leaders need to be thinking about and focusing on in order to be successful and impactful in the digital age?
Well, leadership over the centuries, it's always been about people who have a combination of a personal humility and a will to bring about change and make things happen. But in the digital age, we need to have some extra skills brought into the picture in order to take us where we want to be. So it takes things like visionary leadership, understanding what's on the horizon and thinking about how to get your group, whatever your group may be, to that place. In a school system, visionary leadership means thinking about what's necessary for those kids and thinking about the pedagogy that you're employing in your school to help kids go to the next level.
Many of the traits and skills that come to mind when we think of what it takes to be an effective leader haven't changed much over the years. When we think about strong leaders, some words that may come to mind might be visionary, dedicated, passionate, or persuasive. But when it comes to leading in the digital age, specifically in education, what skills and traits are important for leaders to hold?
It's fun to think about what does that look like? What does it mean and look like to be a digital age school leader? And I think it's a person who's using the technologies to communicate and collaborate. They might be collaborating with their peers globally. They might use technology to collaborate and communicate with parents, students, the business community. They might be blogging. They might actually be using Twitter to kind of keep the buzz going about something that's coming up within the school system. So I think all of those things lend themselves to being a digital age leader.
Realizing the crucial importance of education leadership in the digital age, ISTE has created a new conference, the ISTE Leadership Conference.
ISTE's Leadership Conference is a first-time event. We're holding October 21st through 23rd in Indianapolis, and it will be quite a bit different than our annual event. At the annual conference, it's for absolutely everybody. We have a lot of people there, and our whole focus is something for everybody. At the Leadership Conference, we're going to be focusing more narrowly, specifically, on school leadership and district-level leadership. So the audience will be superintendents, superintendents' cabinets, and building leaders who are all engaged in bringing about systemic reform within school systems. One of the things I'm most excited about this conference is that it's a combination between a traditional conference where there is choice, because we know adult learners like to have choice, and more of a workshop kind of an environment where you're led through to do certain activities that culminate at the end. So at the very beginning, we're starting with over an hour with Michael Fullen in roundtables. It's not a keynote, it's not an address, it's an opportunity to work with him thinking about change, research, what works in schools, and then applying that to using technology to be a visionary technology leader. Then, through the 2 days of the conference, people will work from an action plan. And if they come with a team, which is what we're hoping people do, they'll get together with their team and work on things that are specific to their particular situation.
ISTE's focus on leadership has also led us to zero in on the skills students need in order to become digital age leaders themselves. Over the past year, ISTE, CSTA, and NSF have collaborated on a project to prepare young learners to become computational thinkers. The project has resulted in many valuable resources, including booklets, videos, and animations. Educators can utilize these free resources to learn more about CT and how to incorporate it into their lesson plans.
Computational thinking is a mix of skills, and it's also knowledge and attitudes that allow us to solve complex problems and look at data sets and things in a way that we never have before. So in the language of K-12 education, thinking about what it means for the students that we primarily serve, computational thinking is about problem solving, it's analytical thinking, but it's also about things like dealing with ambiguity and not giving up when problems get hard, and thinking about complexity and how do you set things into steps to be able to solve a very complex problem. And those skills, they're part of computational thinking, they're part of the big picture, but they're also life skills that we want to develop in students for the rest of their lives.
Why are computational thinking skills important for the future?
As we think about the problems and the challenges that we face in the world ahead of us, and as we think about the kinds of skills that we need, we want students to be creators and inventors and problem solvers, and sometimes solving problems on a magnitude that we can barely imagine. And with technology becoming less and less expensive and in the hands of the average person, everybody has the opportunity to become a solution provider and a creator. And for students in particular, starting to develop those skills and see themselves as someone who can create the future they imagine, instead of just being a consumer, being someone who makes the world they want to see, it's critically important.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome ISTE Deputy CEO, Leslie Connery.
Screen? Oh no, I guess I can't say that, can I? Wow, what a week. Have you had a good experience this week? You know, I hope each and every one of you have had the opportunity to expand your horizons in a really big way. It's incredible what happens when you bring together professional learning opportunities, dedicated educators, technology, creativity, and passion, and then you provide the opportunities for the connections and the collaborations to take place. It's truly community at its very, very best. And I think we saw a lot of that happening this week. Now, I know for me it's been an inspiring week, talking to people in the halls, finding out the different things that they've done. Excellent feedback about the keynotes with Sir Ken and then Young Zhao. Did you like Young Zhao? The concurrent sessions were jam-packed. I saw so many conversations happening in the hallways, in the playgrounds, people working through the exhibit hall. I mean, it was truly amazing. And then I know that when you left the convention center and went to the beach, that you had good conversations there as well. Okay, I know that some of you did. But I mean, truly, San Diego. Okay, let's throw San Diego into it. Was it great? You know, ISTE 2012 has truly breathed new possibilities into what can happen in our world and what can happen in education. And at this point, you are likely filled to the rim with new possibility. Loads of bookmark sites and new apps, new tweets, new strategies and plans and friends, and ripe with possibilities for things that you can do to improve your students' learning opportunities. I'd like to stop here and just thank some folks for a moment who've helped make this possible. Some very special contributors to the San Diego experience. In yesterday's keynote session, you had a chance to meet our conference program chair, Anita McInerney. I think we need to say, Anita. But many of you probably haven't had the pleasure of meeting the ISTE 2012 regional program chair. Bonnie Marx has worked on many, many ISTE conferences over the years. And she's also been ISTE's board president back in the early 90s. She's been a long-term volunteer supporter and board member for California Q. Please join me in thanking Bonnie for contributing her talent and expertise to the ISTE 2012 conference experience. Thank you so much, Bonnie. Can't I go do this? Incredible. And let me speak over this way. Speaking of Q, ISTE would also like to thank our EdTech partners and friends from California. Q is responsible for a tremendous amount of support and doing regional outreach that brought hundreds of volunteers and attendees to San Diego. Q is also responsible for contributing terrific and innovative content, like the Shred sessions and the Rockstar sessions. Mike Lawrence is the executive director of Q, and I'm proud to say he's also an ISTE board member. Mike, thank you for joining me here to accept this small thank you on behalf of ISTE. Thank you so much. Thanks, you too. Whether you're from Australia, South Africa, Australia. Oh my goodness, the Aussies, they keep coming. Keep coming, guys, keep coming. South Africa, China, Chile, or San Diego. Oh, wait a minute. The Australians were louder than the San Diego folks. San Diego? Great. Your investment in learning will provide lifelong dividends and have a significant impact on the students you reach. They're dividends that will benefit you, your colleagues, and most importantly, your students. Before we transition to my introducing our closing keynote address, I'd like to issue one final challenge. I do this every year. I can't let you leave without some homework. So I'd like you to take a minute, just a brief minute, to imagine how your students back home, your fellow teachers, fellow administrators, might benefit from what happened this week at ISTE 2012. Consider how you might be a conduit, a really powerful conduit for influencing the future. I'm asking you to think for a minute about how you can be even more powerful than you already are as an agent of change. Because the truth is, and I know it, many of you already are change agents. That's why you're here. But take a moment to think about those colleagues back home who are just as impassioned as you are about changing learning environments, as well as those who might need some convincing about the need to advocate and to push for better learning environments to help take our students into the future. And then imagine how all of them might feel if they'd had the opportunity to be here and experience what you experienced this week. So here's my challenge to each one of you. As you get ready to depart this amazing playground of learning and exploration, share what you've learned with other educators and parents and students and district leaders. Use your PLNs, use Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, team meetings, lunch meetings, meetings in the ladies' room, blog posts, any chance you get. We know where the meetings happen. Use these opportunities to share what you've learned and to help spread the word. I want to challenge you to do even more than you've done in years past. Let's expand even more horizons. I also want other educators to become ISTE members, to take part in the SIG discussions, and to join us at the conference each year, to be a part of this incredible energy, and to be here talking with us about what's essential for student learning. Please, by the way, also tell them about the ISTE Leadership Conference coming up in October. You saw me mention it on the big screen earlier. We want to make sure that we have every administrator, your superintendents, the superintendent's cabinet, the principals, all of those folks in your region, we want to make sure that they make this a priority. So send them a link, shoot them an email. We know that school district leadership is critically important. Those school leaders are critically important for having the impact that we want to have for students. System-wide change will take place when you, the ones who every day live and breathe this kind of passion and learning, when you reach out and grow our numbers and our influence. And just think, how would learning be different throughout the world if more teachers and administrators approached learning with the passion and the heart that you do? Just remember, it's first about improving student learning. Technology comes as a means. It's a very important means, it's powerful and it's essential, but nevertheless, it's a means to an end. And when we take this message and strategies for having an impact on the world, that's what's finally going to turn the tide. But none of us, ISTE is an organization, individual educators, none of us can do this alone. We need to do it together. You're in the very best position to ensure that your leaders, your colleagues, regional directors, everybody find solutions to the challenges that we face in making sure that all students have the opportunity to reach their creative and intellectual potential. Are you ready? Pick up the challenge, thought of the person? Let me hear your commitment. Great. Thank you. Now, I think before I introduce the keynote speaker, I want you to just think for a minute, one person that you're going to share somebody with when you get home. Just take a minute and think. You can tweet it if you want, whatever device you want to use, or just think. Something that you could share. Great. Thank you. Now go do it. When you leave here, go share those messages. I now have the distinct privilege of introducing Dr. Willie Smits. He truly represents learning in action. He's a trained forester, a conservationist, and an animal rights activist. Willie's lived and worked in Indonesia for almost 30 years, and his lifelong goal has been to save the environment for future generations by providing real-life examples of living in balance with nature. ISTE chose to feature the work of Dr. Smits specifically because of his efforts to engage students worldwide in a collaborative project-based learning initiative dedicated to saving the rainforest in Borneo. Working with supporters like Microsoft's Partners in Learning initiative and taking it global, more than 17,000 students from all over the world have become in DeForest Action's educational resources and social media framework to raise more than $80,000 to protect rainforest lands. Appearing with Willie today is science teacher Chris Gauthier and DeForest Action chair Liza Heavener. Please help me welcome Dr. Willie Smits. Thank you for being here.
Well, good afternoon. So many still present here at the ISTE conference. It's a great pleasure to be back here in San Diego. And I'd like to take you on a little travel to my home country, Indonesia, for already 33 years. And we would like to tell you a bit about the DeForest Action program. So 2 years ago, I was contacted because Microsoft Partners in Learning had done this survey amongst many, many young people and asked them, what is the most pressing issue that you think the world should take on? And most of them said deforestation. And this is how Microsoft started looking around, and since I've been around for a while in doing reforestation in Indonesia, planted quite a few trees and tried to deal with the deforestation actions to save the orangutans, because I love orangutans. This is how we got to work together and tried to look how we could set up a global cooperation that would not be just about learning, but truly about problem-based learning, truly about taking action that would connect people to things happening in the field. So we came up with this mission statement to empower young people to take real action to stop deforestation, and using all these wonderful technologies and social media in a very efficient way. So it's a nice statement, and there are many beautiful words around, but how to make that work in practice is not that simple. But we got a very nice partnership together, including taking it global and the Virgil and White Crow to make a film about this program, to also disperse the experiences of the program, and together with Microsoft Partners in Learning and my foundation, the Masaran Foundation, which has as its mission and vision to save nature by empowering local people, and Geodan, a company that has developed educational software for 150,000 children in the Netherlands to look in an integrated way at the data and how to analyze them themselves. So starting from this partnership, DeForest Action is therefore about a number of things. First is one program, which we call Earthwatchers, which is about monitoring and safeguarding Borneo's forests as a starting point, using up-to-date satellite images from a range of partners, and using very powerful software to let the students do the analysis of these images, which are abundantly available, but there is not enough processing time available to look at all these images. Every day there are more than 5,000 of these satellite images taken, but only like 1% is directly processed. Now, if you have millions of young people participating, you might actually look at whole the world. We also want to grow new forests, but which are food, material, energy forests, which at the same time support biodiversity. We'll come back to this. And learning about nature and gaining respect for nature, and especially, I hope, through the charismatic orangutans, who can provide us with so many valuable insights. And then finally, how to establish a collaboration between all those young people using the social media that we have available nowadays. So let me take you to Indonesia, a beautiful country. When I arrived there in 1980 early, the forest was still like endless. It seemed like this is impossible, that such a vast resource will ever disappear from the planet. But unfortunately, we have now 58 million hectares of these grasslands that once were lush rainforest. If you stand here, it's hot and it's silent. You don't even hear the sound of insects. This land is totally worthless. All the nutrients are gone, all the biodiversity is gone. So once you lose that, it's a tough job restoring a forest. But it can be done. But this deforestation, first we should think, where does it come from? What are the real issues? And actually, there are a lot of connections between what is going on here in the United States and everywhere in the developed countries and what is happening in my country. So let's look at some of these links and how we can build upon those understandings to come up with a practical program. We have this nutrient crisis. For many, many years, the tropical countries have been exporting cattle feed that was fed to cattle here in the developed world. And as a result, with those cassava and other beans, a lot of nutrients from the soil in the tropics moved to the temperate zone. And there we have trouble now with too many nutrients in the environment, but locally the soil is impoverished and cannot support a good productivity and a vegetation anymore, which results also in problems with the water flow. And you get the sediment clogging up lakes. And that impacts the fishery, it impacts the transportation, it impacts flooding, hydropower plants. It impacts every aspect of the life of the people. And when we have this Fukushima incident, all of a sudden the price of coal goes up, and now we have already 100,000 hectares of these open coal pits, which are not well rehabilitated. So if something happens in Japan, all of a sudden prices go up, immediately the effect is felt on Borneo. And if we also look at the financial crisis, what happens? People look for secure havens, so they invest in gold. And now thousands and thousands of hectares of this white sand desert, a wet white sand desert, without any nutrients, is left there, because the people want the gold from that sand. And the people that do the collecting of that gold with mercury and cyanide, who are poisoning their own environment under horrible conditions, killing off all the fish in the rivers, causing all that sediment to flow in the rivers, make them hardly transportable anymore, are suffering most. So, with things beyond our control, many real things related to deforestation are taking place in the field. Look at the water crisis. We have those big peat domes. There are hills of organic material that function like sponges. If you open those for oil palm plantations, mostly with foreign investment, what happens is that the water is no longer contained in that sponge, but it flows out directly to the sea. As a result, you get flooding, but also the nutrients and the pesticides from those oil palms kill off the fish. They bring sediment and poison to the coral reefs. The breeding grounds of fish are destroyed, and the life of many fishermen at the coast is also impacted. So we have to look at total pictures what these investment decisions do. People think we need monoculture. It's more efficient. We get a higher growth. But when you have a monoculture, you take big risks in the tropics because there are so many organisms that could attack these trees. So you're gambling, and they're also much more prone to the risk of fire. And if we look at the biodiversity, hardly valued nowadays, these peat swamps are hardly studied, and they're opened up for oil palms and turned into biological deserts, while all that valuable genetic material of trees that can grow under very poor conditions, which is going to be the future genes for our planet, are lost. And also the know-how about those trees is lost. The local people, they sell their land and they send their children to the cities so they can learn there and have a better life. But it's these local people that know about medicines that no one here in the West has ever heard of. I'm working with 200 of those medicine men in Borneo, and they have a collection of 300 plants that no one has ever looked at, the benefits that they have. And many of these local Dayak communities now become more tourist remnants to visit. This was once the life, and people get drunk, and the whole culture and know-how that is being lost. We also have the issues of food security. When in the United States you provide more subsidy for ethanol through corn growing, it means that in other countries, just across the border here, the price of tortillas will go up, and it will really impact the life of people. And they will also have to go back to less capital-intensive ways of managing land, meaning slash and burn agriculture. And this is also going to degrade their future potential to survive. So there's all these conflicts going on. And when people open these forests, even if there's no fire, there is these huge emissions from the peat swamps, up to 200 tons of CO2 per hectare per year, until the swamp itself is underwater again and no longer usable for agriculture. And if they dry out during a dry season, it can burn, and the smoke goes all around the world from Borneo. And those particles of ash and black carbon, they settle down on the ice caps, and they lead to the melting and the further rise of the sea levels. And the impact, for example, in Bangladesh is huge. Millions of people are going to lose their land in the coming few years as a result of that. So the impacts of these decisions is huge. And if you look at Borneo, well, I don't need to say anything. It's just horrendous. We are eating away our forests so fast. Brazil has taken the decision to give more opportunity to use parts of the Amazon again. And the orangutans that I love very much get killed and burned, a mother with a dead baby on her back, and we have to rescue them from oil palm plantations. When they come out of the forest, they get their heads chopped off to be sold as Dayak antiques, and sometimes still eaten by some communities and even used as prostitutes. So what does it take to have real impact for those young people around the world through this program of DeForest Action? That's a big question. There's a lot of talk going on. We just finished Rio 20, and it's the same again. Yeah? We promise that we will continue to talk, and every year that we postpone, it's going to be exponentially more expensive to deal with the real issues. So I think it is time to make a change, and it maybe shouldn't come from the top, but it should come from the young people. So we agreed, let's do a program where we invite people from around the world to come to Borneo and see if all those people from different backgrounds, cultures, religions, languages, if they can come to a common understanding how to deal with the issues of deforestation. And hundreds of applicants sent in their 2-minute video clip. And I'd like to share this one clip by Mark Gorosky with you, and then we'll come back to it.
For all the trees, for the trees they have no tongues, and tongues are just what all trees need. My name is Mark Gorosky, I'm from Wisconsin in the USA, but now I'm living in Korea. I'm an actor teaching English, performing in musicals, but I wanna go to Borneo, where I can make a change for the orangutans. They need our help. Deforestation takes their habitat away. We can't stand by and let the whole world think that this is all okay. DeForestAction.com is taking action with Project Borneo, and I want to go to be a part of that. Deforestation means to be a hidden opportunity for education and cultivation of a global organization and community that will stop deforestation with a mountain of education. I want to change the situation for the future generation, because they'll need air to breathe, not palm oil. No, 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 we can't breathe palm oil. My name is Mark Gorosky, I'm from Wisconsin in the USA. I'll be a strong addition, I work hard for what I believe in, and I believe in Borneo. I work on a team when I am acting, and I can work on a team with you to make a positive change for the orangutans. And this is what I'll do. I'll go to Borneo, 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 whoa, Borneo.
Can you imagine what we can do if we have that spirit of the young people becoming contagious and infecting all these other people? And let's see what they can actually do. On this website you can see hundreds of these short video clips of people telling why they believe that they should be part of this movement. So, 14 young people were selected after a very intensive process to come to Borneo for 100 days and see what they could do to take real action. And they came, they went up rivers, they saw how graveyards of Dayak people were bulldozed by foreign companies there, and they learned that the life in the forest, Chris is just falling there in the water, and the other Ikyars, it's not that easy, that the Dayaks have a full know-how about that forest and can survive, and that know-how is worth a lot. So the people that came here and lived within a community of Dayaks and learned about their ways had a very special experience. And when we came there, we had this bath in the river, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this little spider landed on my hand. And all these Dayaks became so, what is going on, I asked, and you have the spider. And I said, yes, and it's nice, it's beautiful. Yeah, but this is the spider of the connections. You are welcome. So we were taken up in the community because of this little spider. Now we'll come back to that little spider. So the people opened their houses and they taught the eco-warriors what the forest meant to them. A forest is food, and a forest is also medicines. It is energy, it's fuel, it is electricity from hydropower. And a forest is water. Without a forest you don't have clean water, you will get diseases. And how will orangutans live without that forest. Forest is life. And they learned, for these people, the forest is the future. This was a community, the community of Tembak, who had stood up against a timber concession owned by President Suharto at that time and kicked them out, facing guns. 3 times they have stopped encroaching oil palm plantations from coming to their forest, and they invited us in their home to see what we could do. So that's a program they learned. Now we also want other people to be able to connect through technologies like working with Microsoft's Kinect, that you, for example, could become an orangutan, swinging from tree to tree with those 3D movements, making your plan to move through a 3D world, not a 2D like you. You just go forward, backward, left and right. But an orangutan has to go up and down and back and has to know what strength the trees will have in order not to fall to their death. So we can use the modern technologies to create these connections. Right now, that program is running together with the Polytechnic University in Hong Kong, and we are already running a project called the Touch Project, where we are using touch screens that are orangutan-proof, and they need to be strong. I tried to destroy them myself. It doesn't work. And we can thereby doing the research on what is going on in the minds of these orangutans, even from a far distance, and using the pictures of other orangutans on the screen, see how they recognize them upside down, they're very good at that, and how to place a durian, and then see if we can interact with the orangutans. But the touch screens are not for the fingers. You see what that orangutan is doing? He's not following the example of our orangutan keeper, it's using its lips. They have these lips that can shove out 4 inches, and that's how they like to press buttons. So we should have a screen that's inside the cage and is so strong that they can't destroy it, and then you actually can get away with it. So the orangutans, then the Earthwatchers program, where the Geodan and others set up a beautiful partnership to get access very quickly to high-resolution images for DeForest Action, a program that was awarded the Innovation Award by the European Space Agency recently. And it actually worked. The team came up with these maps. The oil palms were going to come in. So what did they do? They made a map that showed where the slopes were different, that they would not be legally allowed to be planted with oil palms. They also showed where the valuable vegetation was, and by combining the results of these analyses of the maps, they were able to stop the oil palm concession coming in there, which was fully supported by the government officials. But it wasn't just the data, it was also the belief, because we worked there together with the Catholic Church, which happens to be the most influential institution in the interior of Borneo. And this missionary, but especially that lady, Mrs. Anaf, she's driving a speedboat. She's a tough lady. She brought 12 villages together and organized them. And when the officials came with threats and with pressure, and with the police and with the army and with the government people and the oil palm people, she stood up and ripped the document in front of everyone. And until now, they haven't been able to come in. So that was the data from DeForest Action. But they need more. They cannot just keep refusing the oil palms to come in, because they do bring some jobs and they are eager for that. But they have sugar palms, and sugar palms can be tapped just by slicing a millimeter every day, and you can harvest 65 different products from them. But the local Dayaks only used these sugar palms to produce food. They used the palm heart and the fruits as delicacies, and the starch to make this kind of noodles, but also the larvae that you can grow in the stems are a delicacy there. So they did not realize that this tree could actually produce so much sugar on a daily basis that it could fulfill all their needs for energy, for electricity, for cooking, and for transportation. So what we are now trying to do there is set up these zero-waste, simple, integrated systems in which only we put in palm juice from these sugar palms that they already have. You put it in fermenters, you use the yeast, and all what comes out of these systems is clean water, fish, meat, milk, and ethanol. Ethanol that can run a generator, that you can use for cooking, that you can use to drive your speedboat. So you make them independent, so they are not dependent upon that little bit of money that the oil palm concessions bring. Hardly any jobs, 0.11 jobs per hectare. With sugar palms you can create 10 times more jobs per hectare permanently, and you can do it in very simple ways. This is what it looks like, such a system. And we have this one operational in North Sulawesi, but the school to train the local Dayaks to use this same technology in Borneo is already under construction and will soon receive the first Dayaks to be trained in this technology, so that from existing resources they can become independent from the external inputs of oil on which they are dependent now. And when you create so many jobs, the people don't want to go cut down the forest and slash and burn agriculture, because they have all the good income close to home, which means that the orangutans also have a safer habitat to live in. So we come with solutions. We brought the eco-warriors over to Borneo. They saw horrible things, but I think it is best for me to invite Liza Hevener, who is the leader of DeForest Action, and let her tell a little bit about her experiences and tell us about what she has seen there. Liza.
Thank you. 2012 is a leap year, and sometimes in life you just have to take a leap. I joined DeForest Action as one of the chosen eco-warriors and signed up for 100 days in the jungles of Borneo. Now, my background had somewhat prepared me for this, as I have worked in government on Capitol Hill for the past 6 years, and it can be a jungle in American politics too. In February, I quit my job as a lobbyist, kicked off my high heels, threw on my forest boots, and 2 weeks ago, I returned from 100 days in Borneo. I'm feeling a global shift. Thank you. I'm feeling a global shift, and I suspect that most of you are feeling it too. We're operating in a world that is increasingly interconnected. No longer can we hear and read about crises in our world and think, well, it's too far away, it doesn't impact me. The deforestation happening in Borneo is and will affect us all. It took me physically going to Borneo to understand that deforestation is more than just a term. It's Dayak tribes being forced into homelessness after being tricked by palm oil companies. It's orangutans on the brink of extinction. It's the destruction of some of the most precious biodiversity on the planet. There were some days in the rainforest that I felt so isolated, like I was the only one fighting for the future of the planet. Then we held our first global webinar with students. And suddenly, tens of thousands of school students from all corners of the globe stood up behind their computer screens as their teachers proudly listened while they engaged in a new kind of interactive 21st century learning and took control and ownership of their future. They attended another webinar that was in the cage of a 3-year-old orangutan named Jojo. They learned about her habitat and personality as she swung wildly from the cage. And they heard stories about deforestation firsthand from the middle of the rainforest. Their textbook literally came alive. And it was then, through your students, that I was filled with hope. They understood that if we act now, we can raise awareness and stop the Dayaks from homelessness. We can stop the slaughter and suffering of endangered animals. We can be the change that we want so desperately to see in the world through the collaboration of us all joining together. Since returning from Borneo, I've thrown myself into this project, determined to find a way to make it a full-time job. In the words of J.R. Richard, nothing could be more important than helping our young people directly experiment with new, path-breaking ways of solving the planet's problems. And from that standpoint, DeForest Action is just the kind of initiative that is needed, part laboratory and part lighthouse. I'm so excited to continue virtually meeting and collaborating with your students and with you as we continue to embark on this journey to create positive change for the world's forests. So I encourage all of you to take a leap and join the movement. Thank you.
Wow. What else can you add? Wonderful. So, this 21st century teaching, how does it look like? You know, we have people out there in the field, but how does it really work in the classrooms that you are more familiar with in the educational system? So, in order to tell us more about this innovative teaching and what we are doing and what it looks like, I hope that Christopher Gauthier is ready to join me here on the stage and tell you from a real classroom experience what the ways and the methodologies are and what the results are of working with these kids from across the world.
It was welcoming hearing all the Aussies cheer at the back. So Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! My name is Chris Gauthier, and I'm a teacher at Cleveland District State High School in Brisbane, Australia. I know I don't have an Australian accent, but that's because I'm Canadian. I'm originally from Waterloo, Ontario, Canada, and moved to Australia in 2008, much to the dismay of my friends, family. It was a quite sad time for them, but quite empowering for myself to follow my second passion of education. My second passion, you might ask? Ever since I was a young child, I loved animals and always told my teachers, friends, family, and anyone who would listen, frankly, that I wanted to own or work at a zoo one day. That passion was also the reason I decided to complete my graduate teaching degree at the University of the Sunshine Coast in Australia, as it was only a short drive from Steve Irwin's Australia Zoo. This passion, which was encouraged by my teachers, led for me to obtain an honors degree in zoology. And throughout this presentation, you will come to understand why this project is the perfect marriage of both my passions in life, education and animals. I am lucky because I'm following my dreams through learning opportunities in this project. And students are discovering and cultivating their passions in life as a result. Throughout the conference, we have seen just how powerful technology and teaching can be in the lives of our students. However, currently, only 14% of students feel that the world is becoming a better place. 14%. 48% of students thought India is a Muslim country. 74% thought English was the #1 spoken language on the planet. 90% of students in America couldn't find Afghanistan on a map. In an era where students have more access to information and the answers to their questions are a simple click away, this is unimaginable that such a high proportion of our students are so disconnected with the world around them. However, this presents us as teachers with many opportunities. We are currently also facing an engagement crisis. Who here this week has heard the term engagement? Raise your hand. Yeah, we all have. It's something we all talk about, but this graph behind me is illustrating that the current education system is not connecting our students with materials that they feel is relevant to their world. Students feel school is less meaningful, less interesting, and less important. As a result of this, 46% of students surveyed in America are bored. I know that if nearly half the students in my class were that disconnected and bored with school, I would feel that this was an absolute failure. I would be so devastated, and I'm sure most of you sitting in this room would be as well. Now let's talk about where the opportunities lay. In Australia, a survey of young students found that they have an innate connection to their environment. 88% feel the environment is important to them. Without developing real-world connections to the environment, it's safe to say that nearly 9 out of every 10 students may be switched off and totally disengaged. In this same study in Australia, 91% of grade 6s and 89% of grade 10s supported the notion that if all those in their school, the students, the teachers, the administrators, work together and collaboratively to achieve a common goal, real lasting change could occur. So what would it look like if we could provide learning opportunities for our students to make such connections, not only at a school level, but at a global level? Imagine those possibilities. I have also heard many times and many occasions during this past few days of this conference that students are the leaders of tomorrow. Frankly, I disagree with that comment, because students are not the leaders of tomorrow. Students are leading today. In 2010, Microsoft Partners in Learning brought 10 schools from around the Asia-Pacific region to Singapore for a student conference. Students were presented with 20 of the world's most pressing issues and were asked to pick one that they wanted to address. Students selected deforestation, and within a few short weeks, DeForest Action was created, a student-led initiative spreading awareness of global deforestation. Microsoft Partners in Learning and Taking It Global began a relationship to build online spaces where not only students could connect and collaborate with deforestation as a topic, but also building global citizenship and empowering and enable students to take learning into their own hands. While students are taking learning into their own hands, a culture of self-directed learning helps students cultivate those 21st century skills that we're all talking about and are essential to survival and for them to thrive in an increasingly knowledge-based world. Everything came into place for this project, including great teaching and learning, using real-world problems as the key to make education relevant, meaningful, interesting, and important to those students. Remember that graph I showed you? We're going to make it go the other way. Yeah. To support engaging teaching and learning opportunities, technologies have played a key role in bringing the outside world into the classroom. Skype connected thousands of students to eco-warriors and Willie Smits in the jungles of Borneo, including my own students. While Bing Maps houses our Earth Watchers software, allowing students in your classroom to monitor the forests of Borneo from a bird's eye view. I became involved in the DeForest Action project after hearing Michael Ferduk speaking at a conference in Australia. I was so inspired what he and the Taking It Global team were doing that I immediately raced back to school and signed myself up. I'm not sure if Shane Mason, my IT head of department, remembers that encounter, but I specifically remember leaving the conference, not driving as fast as I should have been, to get back to school to share my experiences, because I was so inspired. It was through their email mailouts that I myself found out about DeForest Action and the global casting call to represent students on the ground in Borneo. I took this idea to my students, who quickly found out that they didn't meet the age criteria, because they had to be 18 to 35. They then decided that I should try and represent them on the ground in Borneo. They made up my audition clip, they edited it, they scripted it, they hijacked my computer, stole images. I didn't see the final video until it was uploaded to YouTube. But they did show my principal before doing that, so we made sure that was all good. My school and greater community, both in Canada and Australia, showed overwhelming support to my cause. Although I didn't make the top group of applicants, and as devastating that was for my students, they came through in the end and showed the dedication and determination, and were able to meet a challenge from the movie producer Kathy Henkel to raise $5,000 and gain 5,000 followers to our Action Hub, securing me the opportunity to go to Borneo for 16 days just over a month ago. Yeah. Thank you. Without my student support and the school's support, I would not have experienced such a life-altering moment, and it's something that I will take with me for the rest of my life. Oh, I just got emotional thinking about it. It's still a little bit real. Just, I think it was 6 weeks ago I left. So, now what does this mean in terms of teaching and learning? So Earth Watchers, the satellite monitoring program, gives students an ability to monitor a plot of land in the forests of Borneo. Students can effectively use satellite technology to make note of any noticeable changes to the landscape. If disturbances are noted, students can set their land to alert and share their observation on social networking sites, developing cross-border collaboration, helping students to develop a global voice and a sense of shared responsibility. This here is a picture of a local Dayak longhouse, where over 100 Dayak families reside. I was lucky enough to visit this longhouse on my recent trip to Borneo. However, when we arrived, we immediately knew something was wrong. When we arrived, it was noticed the majority of the Dayaks were not present in the longhouse, and we were told that there was currently some altercation ongoing out in the forest. We were not allowed to partake in that conflict that was occurring, as it was strictly Dayak business, but to us, we knew that something was occurring. A few short days later, when I arrived back to school in Australia, my students were assigned their plots of land for earth watchers. They were specifically given this area of the Longhouse in Edsad Panjang in order to determine if there was indeed illegal logging going on. And with the image on screen, you can clearly see that that was exactly what was going on, as my students have now indicated in red that their land is under an alert. Students were shocked, upset, and dismayed to find out that what they were seeing was their pristine rainforests being turned into palm oil plantations. I would now like to turn over to Willie Smits, as he was still in Borneo at the time, and can talk about what himself and the eco-warriors did on the ground once my students noticed this alert. So, Willie.
So the school noticed these changes and they contacted the data center with Dr. Eduardo Diaz. The satellite images were ordered, and a week later we had a very recent image, and a few days later it was processed. And that image was taken by the eco-warriors to this longhouse, and they showed these maps that they had processed with simple colors to the community, and they got it. They could immediately see that's the oil palms coming up, approaching our village. And that is the new opening of the forest by a neighboring villager who was doing it there. And they discovered new canals that they didn't know had been made there that could drain the forest and could lead to fires in that forest. So the community, with that map, went into the field. They knew exactly where to go, and they found the bulldozers, and they faced off with those bulldozer operators. And they chased them out, and they organized a committee to make sure that the forest was going to be patrolled. So it actually works. Continue.
We'd now like to show you a clip of just the power that this program, Earthwatchers, represents.
Earthwatchers means being able to do something in my home that can impact another place, a place that I don't even know that much about.
Mr. Gauthier, yeah, him actually really wanting to get involved, and then he brought it to us, and we were like,
gobsmacked at how amazing the project is, and that we can kind of make a difference ourselves.
Yeah, that we can do whatever we can to change the world.
As a teacher, I think that's things you always want to do, is get them passionate about something, and you kind of hope that you rub off a little bit about them. And I think for me, it's just been quite a little bit overwhelming at times, just seeing actually how passionate they have become about it.
It's really important to be inspired, otherwise you don't really know what to do, and you don't really have that force to keep you going, to know what you're working towards. But in the end, being able to make a difference, that's what the Eco-War is about, that's what the program at school is about, and that's why we're involved.
It empowers the students to believe that they actually do mean something, that they have value, that they're not just one girl, they're not just one boy, they're not 15. You know, they actually have a voice, and they can stand up and actually make a difference.
It's made a big difference on us, that if we do have a dream, we can achieve it.
And he's always said that to us, that one person can always be the change, and
be the change you want to see in the world.
Yeah. And he's been quite an inspiration, not just to me but to everyone, that you can kind of just do it. You don't have to just sit back and watch it. You can just do it.
It's an inspiring feeling, and it warms up your whole body to know that you really want to make a change. You want to be a part of something bigger, and it puts everything else in perspective, and it really makes you realize what a change that you can make and that you need to make for the rest of the world.
So I'm hoping now you as educators can see why I value this project, and my students do as well. Through Taking It Global's online virtual classroom platform, students have been able to engage in asynchronous dialogue and collaboration. Students created the forum and conditions to share their ideas on deforestation, impacts on local and global communities, and propose solutions using social and digital media tools. Through this, students got excited and active in their own learning as it was structured in a way that, again, was relevant to them. Through online collaboration, we have seen how students are able to solve problems. Now, let's see how teachers are creatively troubleshooting curriculum obligations and integrating DeForest Action into their classrooms. I'm going to show you 3 quick, simple examples on how you, in this room, could embed DeForest Action in English, math, or science. So first example here is math. I have taken an excerpt from our Australian National Curriculum Planning documents to show you how easily this can be done. What I'm promoting here today is not that you sit back and redesign your whole curriculum unit or build a brand new 12-week unit surrounding DeForest Action. What I am simply suggesting is that you use DeForest Action as an add-on to your lessons or curriculum that you already have in place and I'm sure are great the way they are. For example, the document states students need to be able to solve problems involving the comparison of lengths and areas using appropriate measurements. What I did with my junior math class was a lesson outside on measuring areas, perimeters, and lengths. Students were given a simple problem. If we raise $5,000 and $2 saves 1 square meter of land in Borneo, what's the maximum area of land that we can protect? It might sound simple, but it got my students to work together, collaboratively, think, and devise a solution together. Okay? And in the end, they were able to measure the lengths, calculate the area, and perimeter. We were able to tick that box. Example number 2 is from a math or science background. Okay? So our document says, investigate, interpret, and analyze graphs from authentic data. As you can see on the screen behind me, there's a graph from deforestation rates in the Brazilian Amazon rainforest. We can compare the data from that to global temperature rise. And students can make the correlation between deforestation and global temperature rise. It's that simple. Example number 3 is one from our English curriculum planning documents. The descriptor does not say students need to have a comparison contrast essay between Macbeth and the Great Gatsby. That's not what that says. Okay? So why can't we, as the educators, have our students evaluate 2 different position papers written by 2 different players in the world of deforestation, such as Asia Pulp and Paper, which is a known company to deforest, and a group like Greenpeace, who is advocating on the protection of the rainforest in Borneo. Students can evaluate the different language used and how the different groups construct their position papers or press releases using varying literary devices. Through embedding DeForest Action into curriculum, many innovative and student-created initiatives have been developed, and I'm just going to take a few moments to quickly show you some of them. Dallas Brooks Primary in Australia was completing a unit on copyright and media. Students created an online store with self-created logos, donating all proceeds of the sales to DeForest Action. The picture with the orangutan there, that's from Taroona High School in Tasmania. They wanted to advocate for DeForest Action and spread their message to all corners of the globe. So now every May, they run an International Ranga Day, raising awareness to the plight of orangutans in Indonesia. Millen Woods Primary School in Waterloo, my hometown, they have recently, yes, thank you. I'd like to take, ownership over this, but it wasn't me. It was a fabulous teacher named Sandra McVannell, who was actually my grade 1 teacher when I was a little kid. So that's been powerful, being able to reconnect with my past teachers. They began a penny raising initiative because they don't want the orangutan to go extinct like the penny, because in Canada right now it's talked that the penny is going to go out of circulation. In 1 month, those kids have raised nearly $1,000, to the point where the bank is sick of seeing those teachers coming in, wheeling boxes of pennies. My school, Cleveland District State High School, has developed an eco-friendly stationery drive that is made from recyclable materials, empowering students to think globally but act locally. All those products are made from 100% recyclable old newspapers, recycled cardboard, old pop bottles turned into rulers, or aluminum, as we say in Australia, aluminium cans. We've also had many student initiatives around raising awareness. This is an example in Australia, again, where we have a school that does student-leading student conferences. So they invite schools from around the district to come to their school, where we have those students now spreading the message of deforestation, how to become an earth watcher, what palm oil is, and what those individuals can do. We also have some schools in Africa that are part of the project. This is an example from Lagos in Nigeria, where we have seen new heights of passion from these students and teachers. These students have created their own West Africa DeForest Action page on Facebook and have shared relevant deforestation issues with their communities in Nigeria. Their engagement has also led to tree planting initiatives in their local areas. So they are reforesting areas in West Africa because of this project. Now, the most profound impact I have seen so far is from a school called Silverton Primary in Australia. These students were so enraged that palm oil is able to be cryptically labeled on products that they invited their local member of parliament, which would be, I guess, a congressman here in America, to their school. And from that initiative and their interactions, that member of parliament went back to parliament and put forth the Truth in Labeling Bill to ensure that all palm oil products were clearly labeled. Such champions. They also teamed up with Melbourne Zoo and started a Don't Palm Us Off campaign, advocating for animals in Indonesia. Now, you sitting here, what can you do? Right now, you could pull out your smartphone and get the new Taking It Global Commit to Act app. This allows students or yourselves to make a commitment to a number of various global issues. So for example, the one on the screen now is you hit that green button and you take the pledge to reduce your consumption of palm oil. This is available on most major smartphones or will be coming shortly. Other things you can do right now is visit www.deforestaction.org. It'll take you to the same place. And you can register yourself and your classroom. You can download that Commit to Act app, and you can sign yourself and your students up for Earth Watchers so that your students, like mine, can have those evoking life experiences. I'd now like to turn it back to Dr. Willie Smits, who will give the closing remarks. And here's our contact information, sorry, up at the top. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris. So, looking back, forests are still threatened. More and more forests are. A lot of them through palm oil. And there are a lot of people in need. This is very close to the Longhouse, where a community in 2 days lost almost all their forests that they had planted, that with rubber trees, 10 years old, they just were bulldozed over by corrupt government officials working together with those foreign companies. And there are many more orangutans and other wildlife in need. Juvi was rescued, Panay was rescued a few weeks ago. So there's still an awful lot that we need to be doing. But thanks to this little spider, we have been given a very unique opportunity, because that little spider allowed us to bring people from other places in Indonesia to the local Dayaks in West Kalimantan and teach them how they are using the sugar palms to produce sugar and energy, something that they didn't know and for which you do need very specialized knowledge. Nico, the guy in the blue shirt from my foundation, is right now there training another 20 villagers in how to do this. And by having the sugar palms there, not being dependent upon the bribery money that the foreign companies bring. And that we were able to bring Chris and so many eco-warriors to that forest, and that they are able to spread that message, that we can build this web. Thanks to that little spider, I think it's a very special thing. So DeForest Action already brought these local people hope. They brought them information that they were able to use and sustainable alternatives. Next, there's this wonderful forest right next to this Dayak community, which from all sides is being enclosed by oil palm plantations. And that is the Saran forest. It's more than 60,000 hectares of virgin intact rainforest that these local Dayak communities have offered to our program, and that we can use to release all that confiscated wildlife which would not otherwise have a chance. So there are opportunities, and if we all reach out together to try to do what we can and each make it work, I think we can make a real difference. Thank you.
Thank you both so much, Dr. Smits. Thank you for your work, Chris. Thank you for your work and your story. And I think we have a lot to thank them for on many, many levels. I appreciate your heart and your work on behalf of making a difference in the world. And I also appreciate that they brought these real examples for the connection into the classroom. I mean, it's the perfect example of a story of what's happening, a real story, not a made-up story. Let's pretend to get kids engaged in something that matters. This is real. And Chris did a brilliant job of showing how we don't have to be constrained by the Common Core. We don't have to be constrained by the standards that are within our districts. We can put them together and address those standards and address that learning material while at the same time igniting that passion that young Zhao talked about yesterday. Remember, that was one of the core pieces of his message, was ignite the passion in our students. Give them something real. Give them something real to become engaged in. It's incredible. So once again, can we just one more time thank them? You know, it would be a big treat for me next year to be able to come to the closing session and tell you how the numbers popped up in the activity in DeForest Action after ISTE 2012 ended and the next school year started. Would never be able to do a one-to-one correlation, but I can tell you if those numbers doubled when you all go back to school, that I would say in my heart that it's because you went back and spread the word and that you started to do some of these things in your classrooms. Now, switching gears a little bit, it wouldn't be an ISTE closing session without a poignant farewell to the current conference and then a hearty welcome to the next. Can you imagine a better introduction to ISTE 2013 than a free travel and registration package? Yay! So ISTE 2013 will be in San Antonio, Texas. And we are deeply appreciative to TCEA for their support of our efforts. Lori Gracie, Christy Brideau, and Carla Burkholder have been instrumental already in helping us forge key relationships that will make sure that ISTE 2013 carries along our mission and connects deeply with as many educators as possible. Now, our trip winner? It's already been drawn. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of our travel registration package to ISTE 2013 is William Welch. Is he here? William? Okay. We know that William may not be here at this point, but we will follow up with him and make sure that he gets that travel package. And until then, I hope that you all have a great summer, that you seek inspiration everywhere, and that you keep your passion for teaching, learning, and the students we serve alive. Thank you so much for being here. Have a good trip home.